Hi there. We've been stuck in a very similar sort of pattern really since the beginning of November. It's been very dry in the south. In fact, some parts of East Anglia at the moment are on track for their driest November on record. But up in the northwest, we've seen quite a bit of rain actually across parts of western Scotland here. We've had a fair number of fronts coming in, giving some periods of rain. But you can see quite clearly here, this is estimated by radar since the beginning of the month. Barely a drop of rain at all across parts of the Midlands, the classic East Wales rain shadow effect here, and some southern parts of England too, seeing very little rain either. And you can see across parts of the East Coast, these are these showers running down the North Sea that we've seen earlier on in the month as well. So very dry in the south, quite wet at times in the northwest, and this pattern's going to stick around I think for the next few days this week, but there is a sign of a change on the way, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few moments. Now, with high pressure dominating in the south a lot of this month, it's given some quite chilly nights where we've got clear sky, and this was from Monday night to Tuesday morning, is a classic example of how cloud cover affects how low the temperatures get at night. So you can see this grey shading here, this is cloud cover on satellite, and underneath the cloud last night temperatures stayed well up, 7, 8, 9 degrees in quite a few places last night. So quite a mild night, no frost problems here. But come further west where we got the clear sky and temperatures got down to below freezing in some places. So a frost out west, but a sunny start, whereas it was rather cloudy but mild to start the day on Tuesday morning. And this is sort of classic really at this time of the year where you've got light winds and clear skies or cloud cover. And obviously with low cloud trapped under high pressure, that plays a big role for road gritting, for example, and that's why it's quite difficult in these situations to know exactly where these little holes will appear in the cloud that could allow those temperatures to get close to freezing compared to 10 degrees warmer somewhere else. So the general pattern at the moment is we've got the high pressure down towards the southwest during the middle part of the week. This is a very weak front that will have come through early Wednesday across southern England. Not much rain really on it, but a bit more active over the North Sea. And a slightly cooler shot of air for a time on Wednesday compared to what we've had over the last few days. So hopefully a brighter day for most places actually, with more in the way of sunshine, a little more widely, but plenty of showers being driven in on this quite keen northwesterly wind into western Scotland, parts of northwest England too. And some of these will be wintry over the high ground in Scotland as well on Wednesday. So a bit of a showery day here, but elsewhere quite a bit of dry weather still. Now by Thursday and into Friday, high pressure still to the south, but we're back to this westerly flow off the Atlantic. So again, there'll be further periods of rain coming into the northwest of Scotland throughout. A lot of dry weather further south, but again, a lot of cloud again, with this westerly flow bringing some very mild air in off the Atlantic. And that's quite interesting, quite important really, when you get this very moist air coming up over the hills of northern Britain. On the eastern side, on the leeward side, you get the Foehn effect taking place, and that can give some quite warm temperatures. So here we go on Thursday, for example, and you can see Aberdeenshire 15, 16, maybe 17 degrees. Also parts of northeast England, the northeast of Wales as well, around Wrexham, for example. All of these areas could see some quite high temperatures if you get some sunshine to the lee of high ground. A classic sort of situation really, and pretty much the only setup you could really get close to record-breaking temperatures at this time of the year. You are relying quite a lot on the Foehn effect. The date records this week I think are around 17, 18 degrees, so I don't think we're going to break any date records, but we'll get close. But the rain will be the other talking point this week, especially in western Scotland. You can see it's going to be very wet. This is all the way through to Saturday morning now. We're adding up all the rain between now and then, and I think quite easily over 100 millimetres, and some places could be between 150, maybe 190 millimetres, depending on how many pulses of rain come into the northwest of Scotland over the high ground here. So again, another wet spell expected on top of what we've already had this month. But again, much of England and Wales, we've got shelter to the east of high ground across the Midlands and southern England. Barely any rain at all really this week, maybe a millimetre or two at most. You can see those showers also feeding into Cumbria, for example, parts of northwest Wales too. But really the dry theme continues in the south after what has been a very dry month so far. But as I say, there is a change coming this weekend, and it comes late Saturday into Sunday. The high pressure in the south, that weakens, new high builds out west, but in the process we get these fronts toppling southwards. So this is a front coming in, the cold front through late Saturday. This is the sort of position expected at some point Saturday evening, Saturday night. A weak feature, but still some patchy rain on it. But behind it follow the isobars all the way to the Arctic. So we are going to bring some cooler air down from the north later on Saturday and into Sunday. And as you can see, some of these showers will be wintry on some of the hills in Scotland as well. And so this is the general pattern expected by Sunday, that front having cleared southwards. Still a bit of uncertainty about the exact timing of this, and it could linger in southern areas perhaps first thing in the morning. And then we're all into this cooler northerly flow with showers running down the North Sea, also running down these Irish Sea into West Wales, the Pembrokeshire dangler pushing into West Cornwall as well. So a classic sort of northerly situation where inland areas tend to be dry and quite sunny, but coastal areas seeing a fair number of showers at times. And again, as I say, they will be wintry on some of the northern hills. So that's Sunday into the beginning of Monday. You'll notice the flow though starts to come back in off the Atlantic around the top of this area of high pressure. So it's a short-lived colder plunge of air, if you like, because as we go into the beginning of next week, we're going to cut off that Arctic flow. But what we will find is this high pressure shifts and comes closer to the UK around the middle of next week. Now there is still some uncertainty about whether it's right over the UK or just a bit to the west, and that will affect if we manage to tap into some colder air from the north or not. But right now it looks like with the high pressure building in a little more widely, things could settle down. It won't be quite so windy. Near the coast we won't see quite so many showers, although as you can see still the signal here for these showers, maybe even the old weak frontal system just running around the edge of that area of high pressure. But with this building into that cold air that will have come in late in the weekend, it will be quite cold at night, and we could potentially see some quite hard frost next week, some fog patches that are very slow to clear, and that sort of thing. So the local detail yet to be ironed out, but overall it does look quite cold by night at least, with some frost and fog during the middle part of next week. Now the latter part of next week is still quite uncertain, more so than the beginning half of the week. But it does look like this high pressure probably will weaken, and a new one may build out west again, which will renew this plunge of northerly air from the Arctic. So it does look like the second half of next week, Thursday, Friday onwards, we may see some colder air coming back again from the north, from the Arctic, and so we're kind of back to where we were really, with these showers running down these North Sea coasts, these Irish Sea coasts. Quite a bit of dry weather inland initially, but there are signs perhaps towards the weekend it may turn a little bit more unsettled with lower pressure getting closer to the UK. So we may well see the rainfall amounts coming up inland by the time we get through to next weekend. Just to give you an idea of what's being flagged up in terms of precipitation anomaly for next week, I just think this highlights the situation quite well. So this is the whole week sort of added up together, averaged out, and you can see these brown colours here indicating below average rainfall across many inland areas. But you can clearly see where these showers are peppering these North Sea coasts. You'll have above average rainfall here, and again down the Irish Sea into Pembrokeshire, down into West Cornwall as well. So it's a really classic sort of northerly setup through much of next week with these showers quite frequent near the coast. They'll get blown inland as well at times, but generally the further inland you are away from those onshore winds, then it will tend to be quite a bit of dry weather, probably quite sunny at times as well, but feeling cold in those northerly winds. Now here's a better look at how things might play out through next week using our ensemble data. So on here we've got the mean sea level pressure in this top graph, and then what we call the air mass temperature. It's about a mile above the ground we're looking at the temperature here. So this is not ground level temperature, but 1 mile above the ground. And we're just trying to identify trends really in how things might evolve through the next 15 days or so. So quite clearly here, we've got this high-ish pressure across the south during the second half of this week building back in, and then there is a bit of a dip on Sunday. That's when we get that first northerly shock coming in with some weak fronts, some coastal showers coming in, and then a rebuild of high pressure again around sort of Tuesday, Wednesday next week with that high pressure building back over the UK, and then it starts to weaken later in the week and into next weekend. Now by this stage there is admittedly a big spread. We could have some fairly deep lows coming in. We could actually keep the high pressure for longer. So there is a big spread about what happens next weekend and after that. But in general, it is likely that the high pressure will weaken a little bit perhaps, and that may well be the case into the beginning of the following week as well. And then looking at the temperature side of things, we've got this shot of warm air coming in later on this week. So late this week into the beginning of the weekend, those temperatures will be significantly above average for the time of the year. Even to the east of the high ground in Scotland, for example. Then this plunge of colder air coming in Sunday into Monday here, a slight rise. Now this is only 1 mile above the ground, but I think actually what happens at ground level is we will keep some fairly shallow but cold air with that frost and fog lingering in some places as well. So it may not necessarily warm up much at ground level during this middle part of next week, despite the fact we're cutting off that northerly flow for a time. And then later in the week, again, a big spread here But there is a trend and a lot of members here going for quite cold air coming back again second half of the week and into next weekend. So I think we could again see another surge of cold Arctic air late next week into next weekend. And it does stay quite cold. I mean, below average here, not massively cold. We'd be looking down at sort of these ends of the graph if we were talking about a significant cold spell, but it is looking quite chilly below average through much of the rest of November until we get to around the beginning of December, and then things start to change a bit, and we'll come on to that in just a few moments. So it is likely to turn quite a bit cooler than we have seen it for a number of weeks, with some rain around perhaps by the time we get through to next weekend and the week after that as well. So quite a bit going on, and no doubt some of the detail will probably chop and change between now and then, and the best way to keep on top of that, of course, is to give our forecasters a ring, because we're available every day, including the weekends, and we're looking at all this data coming in, and hopefully we can give you some advice on which days are best for spraying, for example, over the next few weeks. So this is looking at the very end of November into December. There's that high pressure still to the west, so we've got this northwesterly flow. It does look like it might weaken in terms of that northerly signal by the time we get through to the end of November, early December. So I think overall probably turning a bit more unsettled late November, but still, because it's a northwesterly flow a lot of the time, it is going to be quite chilly, I think, at times as well. And you can see rainfall is near or even above average in the northwest, and this is a wetter signal than we have seen for some time, certainly through most of November. And on the temperature side of things, near normal temperatures, you can see it just creeping into above average. Of course, this is a 7-day period averaged out, and I think the first half of this week will still be quite chilly, and then the latter part of the week, as we head into the early part of December, those temperatures will probably come back up, so averaging out to near normal for the week as a whole. And then as we head a little bit deeper into towards the middle of December here, we've got a signal here for higher than average pressure to build over the UK and actually much of Europe, and this has been a signal for some time actually. So there are growing signs that high pressure might settle things down a bit more widely perhaps as we head deeper on into December. And you can see the rainfall across a good part of Europe here is near or even below average. So that signal for 4 weeks out is actually quite a strong signal at this stage. But I will stress it is 4 weeks out, and it can and sometimes does change. But overall, it is looking dry in the south for much of this week. Quite wet though at times in the northwest of Scotland. And then gradually turning colder next week with some frost, some fog, and there will be some showers, which could be wintry on northern hills initially. But I think towards next weekend, possibly turning more unsettled towards late November, and given there's still some cold air nearby, there may well be a bit of winteriness mixed in with some of that rain that does come in at times. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on nearer the time. That's still quite a lot of days away at this stage. And then the signs are that things might settle down actually into early December. But again, we go back to that mixture of frost and fog, and given the time of year, some of that fog could well be slow to clear and still give you some chilly-ish days. So yeah, quite a bit going on. As ever, you can keep up to date with the day-by-day forecast by following us on our social media. Bye for now.